Welcome, welcome. We're live. We're live. Welcome to Still in the Office with David Carmena. We coming in live today to cover President Biden's address to the nation, to us, about the debt ceiling. I mean, hey, we had some reservations, but they got it done. They got it done. Now he's scheduled to go live at 7. We're also going to cover, if there is some delay or maybe afterwards, we're going to cover another piece of really good news, which is the job report that came in today. The jobs report was extremely positive, very strong, and we're going to cover the numbers as they were made available to us, as well as how that will affect possibly what the Fed is going to be doing with their interest rates. Are they going to, they have three options, the Fed has three options, which are they could rate excuse me, sorry guys, I'm a little under weather today. They can raise it, they can pause, or they can pivot and start lowering the interest rate. So those are the three options that the Fed has, and this job report will help in excuse me again. This job report will help inform us of what they will possibly do. So let's see where we are with the president. Looks like he's still not quite ready yet. So when he goes live, we're going to good Lord, we struggle streaming, as the lead would say. Shout out to the lead attorney. Streaming when sick. Streaming while sick. That's right. I'm not quite fully under the weather, just a little tickle in my throat. But I'm still want to cover from our point of view the where we are with respect to, as I mentioned, the job report that just came in today, as well as last night, the Senate passing the debt ceiling bill is heading to the president for his signature so that we can become law and avert this huge, huge, devastating effects that could have happened while, if we were to default. We covered on many shows what would happen if we default, how every single person will be affected, from the mega rich to us. But let's face it, guys, it would have been primarily us, the business class, the middle class, the lower income, the people who are at risk. Those were the people who would have been affected the most. So we're happy that we the bill passed, got out of the Senate yesterday. We was able to get past that, and we're going to cover what the President Biden has to say today. Let's take a look and see if he's ready. He was supposed to come on at 7. Look like he's still not live yet. 1 second. I'm going to do this. Let's verify something here.
To grow our economy and reflects our values as a nation. That's why I'm speaking to you tonight, to report on the crisis of
Okay, so here we go, guys. We're
doing to
going to go
protect
ahead and
America's
add the
future.
president in.
Passing this budget agreement was critical.
And
The stakes could not have been higher.
We're going to
If we
start
had
him up.
failed to reach nothing would have been more catastrophic. Our economy would have been thrown into recession. Retirement accounts for millions of Americans would have been decimated. 8 million Americans would have lost their jobs. Default would have destroyed our nation's credit rating, which would have made everything from mortgages to car loans to funding for the government much more expensive. And it would have taken years to climb out of that hole. And America's standing as the most trusted, reliable financial partner in the world would have been shattered. So it was critical to reach an agreement. And it's very good news for the American people. No one got everything they wanted, but the American people got what they needed. We averted an economic crisis, an economic collapse. We're cutting spending and bringing the deficits down at the same time. We're protecting important priorities from Social Security to Medicare to Medicaid to veterans to our transformational investments in infrastructure and clean energy. I want to commend Speaker McCarthy. You know, he and I, we and our teams, we were able to get along, get things done. We were straightforward with one another, completely honest with one another, respectful with one another. Both sides operated in good faith. Both sides kept their word. And I also want to commend other congressional leaders. House Minority Leader Jeffries, Senate Majority Leader Schumer, Senate Minority Leader McConnell. They acted responsibly and put the good of the country ahead of politics. The final vote in both chambers was overwhelming, far more bipartisan than anyone thought was possible. So I want to thank the members of Congress who voted to pass this agreement, which I'm going to sign tomorrow and become the law. So here's what the deal does. First, it cuts spending. And over the next 10 years, the deficit will be cut by more than $1 trillion. And that will be on top of the record $1.7 trillion. I already cut the deficit in my first 2 years in office. And it's clear we're all on a much more fiscally responsible course than the one I inherited when I took office 4 years ago. When I came to office, the deficit had increased every year the previous 4 years. And nearly $8 trillion was added to the national debt in the last administration. And now we're turning things around. And that's good for America. You know, my dad used to have an expression. He said, Joey, don't tell me what you value. Show me your budget. I'll tell you what you value. That's at the heart of this debate. What do we value? Protecting seniors. You may remember during my State of the Union address, there was a spirit exchange between me and a few Republicans spontaneously occurring on the floor of the House of Representatives. I was pointing out that for years, some of them were putting forward proposals to cut Social Security and Medicare. And some of them that night took exception, and they said very loudly that that wasn't true. So I asked them on the floor at that night, I said, ask them a simple question. Will you agree not to cut Social Security, not to cut Medicare? Would they agree to protect these essential programs? They're a lifeline for millions of Americans. Programs that these Americans have been paying into every single paycheck they've earned since they started working. And that provides so much peace of mind. With the bright lights and cameras on, those few Republicans who were protesting, they agreed. They said they wouldn't cut it. That's how we protected Social Security and Medicare from the beginning and from it being cut, period. Healthcare was another priority for me, a top priority. I made it clear from the outset, I would not agree to any cuts in Medicaid, another essential lifeline for millions of Americans, including children in poverty, the elderly in nursing homes, and Americans living with disabilities. The original House Republican proposal would have cut healthcare for up to 21 million Americans on Medicaid. And I said no. And Medicare is protected. And so are millions of people most in need. Look, I've long believed that the only one truly sacred obligation that the government has is to prepare those we send into harm's way and care for them and their families when they come home and when they don't come home. That's why my last budget provided VA hospitals with additional funding for more doctors, nurses, and equipment to accommodate the needs of veterans and more appointments. The House Republican plan would have meant 30 fewer million VA healthcare visits for our veterans. We didn't let that happen. In addition, this bill fully funds the bipartisan PACT Act, the most significant law in decades for veterans exposed to toxic burn pits and for their families. It expands access to those veterans and their families to health care and to disability benefits. Look, we're investing in America and our people and in our future. We've created over 13 million new jobs, nearly 800,000 manufacturing jobs. Where is it written that America can't lead the world again in manufacturing? Unemployment is at 3.7%. More Americans are working today than ever in the history of this country. And inflation has dropped 10 straight months in a row. In this debate, I refuse to put what was responsible for all this economic progress on the chopping block. This bipartisan agreement protects the law that will help us build the best infrastructure in the world. It fully protects the CHIPS and Science Act, which is going to bring key parts of our supply chain to America, so we don't have to rely on others, like semiconductors, those tiny computer chips smaller than the tip of your finger that affect nearly everything we rely on, from cell phones to building automobiles to the most sophisticated weapon systems and so much more. We protected another law that I passed and signed last year that finally beat Big Pharma, which I've been trying to do for over 30 years. It finally gives Medicare the power to negotiate lower drug prices, just like the VA has been able to do for veterans. This law has already dramatically cut the cost of insulin for seniors, from as much as $400 a month to just $35 a month for insulin. Negotiating lower drug prices not only saves seniors a lot of money, it saves the country a lot of money. $160 billion that's not having to be paid out because drug prices are more rational. We pay the highest drug prices of any industrial nation in the world. And it's just the beginning. You know, we also protected the most significant breakthrough ever in dealing with the existential threat of climate change. Today, new wind and solar power is cheaper than fossil fuel. Since I've been in office, clean energy and advanced manufacturing have brought in $470 billion in private investments. It's going to create thousands of jobs, good paying jobs, all across this country, and help the environment at the same time. Remember, at the beginning of this debate, some of my Republican colleagues were determined to gut the clean energy investments. I said, no, we kept them all. And there's so much more to do. We're going to do even more to reduce the deficit. We need to control spending if we're going to do that. But we also have to raise revenue and go after tax cheats and make sure everybody's paying their fair share. No one, I promise, no one making less than $400,000 a year will pay a penny more in federal taxes. But like most of you at home, I know the federal tax system isn't fair. That's why I kept my commitment, again, that no one earning less than $400,000 a year will pay a penny more in federal taxes. That's why last year I secured more funding more IRS funding to go after wealthy tax cheats. The nonpartisan Congressional Budget Office, and it is nonpartisan, says that this bill will bring in $150 billion, and other outside experts expect that it would save as much as $400 billion because it's forcing people to pay their fair share. Republicans may not like it, but I'm going to make sure the wealthy pay their fair share. I'm also proposed closing over a dozen special interest tax loopholes for big oil, crypto traders, hedge fund billionaires, saving taxpayers billions of dollars. Republicans defended every single one of these special interest loopholes, every single one. But I'm going to be coming back, and with your help, I'm going to win. Right now, catch this, right now the average billionaire in America pays just 8% in federal taxes, 8%. Teachers and firefighters pay more than that. That's why I proposed a minimum tax for billionaires. Republicans are against it, but I'm going to keep fighting for it. No billionaire should pay less in federal taxes than a teacher or a firefighter. Look, Let me close with this. I know bipartisanship is hard and unity is hard, but we can never stop trying because in moments like this one, the ones we just faced, where the American economy and the world economy is at risk of collapsing, there's no other way. No matter how tough our politics gets, we need to see each other not as adversaries, but as fellow Americans. Treat each other with dignity and respect. To join forces as Americans to stop shouting, lower the temperature, and work together to pursue progress, secure prosperity, and keep the promise of America for everybody. As I've said in my inaugural address, without unity, there is no peace, only bitterness and fury. And we can never become that country. I can honestly say to you tonight that I've never been more optimistic about America's future. We just need to remember who we are. We are the United States of America. And there's nothing we can't do when we do it together. So thank you all for listening, taking the time tonight to listen to me. May God bless you all, and may God protect our troops. Thank you.
And that was President Biden addressing the nation.
All right. All right. Well, that was short and sweet. And what I liked about the address is that while he did point his wins, he didn't overly demify the other side. He actually praised the other side. He said that the House majority leader McCarthy, he did a good job, and they worked together, and they came up with the deal. He actually made his points. He made his points. He did. He made his points and say, "Hey, listen, this is what I held firm on." He acknowledged that his wins were not the only wins. The Republicans had some wins. Overall, it was a good, fairly nonpartisan address to the nation. And really, if you think about it, that's what the president should be. It should be nonpartisan. It should be a president of the United States, of all of us, of all the people. So I like it was good. It was good. He's going to sign. He mentioned that he's going to sign the bill tomorrow, make it law, and crisis is over. I'm sure there's going to be some type of signing ceremony. I'm sure that there will be some pompous and circumstance around the signing, and maybe not. I don't know. Maybe it'd be a low key deal. It might. In fact, I'm probably thinking about maybe it would be some kind of a matter of fact, low key, nothing super crazy. Because guess what? This debt ceiling has been raised 70, 80 times in recent since the 70s, the 60s. So it should not be a big deal. It should be a matter of, excuse me, guys. One of those matter of fact type of deals. We need to, yes, we need to rein in spending. We need to curve our spending, and there's several things that, guys, I am going to have to probably, I'm gonna try one more time and see if we can get past this. And then I may have to cut this short. The debt ceiling has been raised many times over the years without all these positioning and wrangling and bringing us to the brink of default. It's something that the 14th Amendment spoke to when it says that the faith and good credit of the United States shall not be questioned. We will pay our debts. And that's why we talked about the 14th Amendment as an option. Actually, we covered it in this show. Luckily, Now, luckily, we didn't have to actually go there. We didn't have to invoke the 14th Amendment. We didn't have to do some type of workaround where the Treasury mints a $1 trillion coin like some pundits was bringing up. They did their job. The House, the Senate, and the President got together and they passed legislation that would raise the debt, curb spending, and everybody won. It was a win-win-win across the board because Republicans got some, Democrats got some, the president got some. Overall, considering all things, not bad. Congratulations. Congratulations. I've always thought that if push come to shove, if we were really on the brink, the United States was really on the brink, that our government would do the right thing. So I'm pleased that we did, and we didn't resort to some type of gimmick to get past where we are. Now, one thing that the president alluded to was the recent jobs report. And as I mentioned earlier, the report just came in today, and it was positive. It was positive on its face, but there may be not quite a silver lining when we think about how that may affect the Fed. So let's go through the numbers. In May, the U.S. economy added 339,000 jobs. That surpassed expectations. So that was great. That was great. They thought that we would have somewhere around almost half of that number. That was the expectation, but 339,000 was great. It built upon the lead that we had before, which was last month's. I shouldn't say lead, but the job creation that we had before from last month of 294,000 jobs. That was in April. Now, even though we had that much job growth, our unemployment rate did tick up. It did. It ticked up from 3.4% to 3.7%. So still under 4%, like the president said, but it did tick up from 3.4 to 3.7. Now, the increase was from people. The increase of unemployment was from people who lost their jobs, the permanent jobs, and then also some people lost temporary jobs. So that was in the number that raised it from 3.4 to 3.7%. However, the job participation rate is still held steady, which is at a solid 62.6%. So we still are participating at a clip of 62.6%. However, the overall number did increase from 3.4 to 3.7%. Wage growth cooled slightly. The average earning went up from about 0.3% for the month to before that it was at 4.3%. So we just ticked up just a tad. So overall, you would think that those positive numbers mean, well, maybe maybe the Fed will pivot. Maybe the Fed will start lowering the interest rates. One thing that we said before in this channel is that the Fed have basically three things to do. They can raise the interest rate, which they've done so far at a historical clip. They could pause. Now, most analysts think that they're more likely. Prior to this report, most analysts thought, Wall Street thought that there was right around 70 plus 80% chance that the Fed will pause, or they could pivot and start lowering the interest rates. Now, Chairman Paul said himself that, hey, listen, don't expect for the interest rate to be lower this year. We maybe next year we'll look at it. Of course, we'll look at data as it comes in. We'll look at data as it comes in. But as of this report, which was a month or so ago, we're not going to be lowering interest rates. So the question on the table is as well, will this report cause them to maybe raise interest rates because inflation is going up slightly? We still have a strong job market. Will they still stick with what most analysts thought, which is the pivot, or will they start lowering their interest rate? That's what's on the table. That's what's on the table. Now, the impact on business. Now, if the Fed decides that they're going to increase interest rate, we talked about it before. I'm going to cover it again. That is going to tighten credit for us business people. Access to credit. We're not going to have that credit to grow. If you're in the business, well, you want to expand on you want to grow your business and your working capital, or let's say you want to start a project and you need funding for that. That access to capital is going to be squeezed a little bit if we continue to raise rates. And don't forget now, we still have some shaky banks out there. Sorry about that. We still have some shaky banks out there. We still have banks out there that may be very sensitive to raising interest rates, because when you raise the interest rate, the bonds go down, and if they're heavily leveraged in bonds or other instruments from the government, that can negatively affect their stability. We talked about how the Fed raising interest rate at historic levels caused those banks to default, or one of the causes of the banks to default. We talked about Silicon Valley Bank. We talked about, all those other banks that were First Federal, that was taken over by Chase. We talked about other banks that were on the brink, flashing red. Even the Fed chair himself came out and said, well, maybe we did. Maybe we did participate. Maybe what we did was one of the cause. Now, we're not taking any of the blame away from the bank itself, because the bank was overly leveraged, or their base was unique, whether it's all startup or all investors or something like that. So it's not our fault. It's not our fault, but we've listened, and maybe we did raise those rates a little bit too fast. Now, that's what's going to happen to businesses. What's going to happen to homeowners, well, is that the mortgage rates could be higher if the interest rates are raised. That dream of buying a home could be in jeopardy, because that home that you were wanting to buy, maybe you could have afforded at 4% interest rate. Now that home is out of reach at 7% interest rate. The job report is one of those reports that the Fed looks at when they decide what they're going to do. I want you guys to keep in mind that we passed the major hurdle. The major hurdle we passed today, which was the raising the debt ceiling. We needed to do that, but all this would have been secondary, hugely secondary, if we defaulted on our loan. If we defaulted, or if we had a near default, because the stock market would have reacted very negatively. We possibly would have lost our AAA rating, and possibly we would have had one of those things where inflation would have been. Everyone thinks that we're going to be going to inflation like end of the year. Forget that. Inflation would have been now, immediately. So we over that. We over that. The president did his job. The House did its job. The Senate did its job. They put together a bill that the president will sign tomorrow that raised the debt limit. Congratulations. Congratulations on that. Nothing but good news. Everybody won. And if we're lucky, we've turned the curve and started getting the interest rates, the spending. Maybe we start spending less. Overspending is not sustainable. So we do need to have some spending concerns. Let's see what Doug has. Doug, salute, brother. Thank you for coming in. Let's see what you got. Doug says, hi, David, can you talk about the impact of the student loans payments, right? Starting back up in August. And you know what? With respect to student loan payment, you can see some arguments on a couple of different sides. You can see where the Republicans are basically saying that you knew what you knew when you signed up for your student loans. They had to pay their loans. A couple of representatives of House reps came up and said that, he had to pay his loan. Why can't we pay ours, and et cetera, et cetera. On the other hand, some people were saying it's predatory lending. You're taking advantage of the most vulnerable. We've forgiven other industries. Why can't we forgive this? There's even been a spin, actually, Doug, where the business class came up, and this is a very interesting approach to this, where he said that but for my loan, I would have started a business. I would have invested that money that I'm now paying back for a student loan. So actually, because I'm paying my student loan, it is causing me not to be an entrepreneur, not to employ people, and not to add to our tax base. The Supreme Court is going to make the decision. Ultimately, it's going to go down to what the Supreme Court is going to do. Everybody's reading those tea leaves from the Supreme Court. We don't know. We don't know what they're going to do. I know they're pausing and taking a look at everything, but we just don't know. If I had to put my money on it, I don't think that the Supreme Court, being conservative, is going to approve. And one of the provisions, actually, Doug, I'm glad that you mentioned this also, is that, excuse me. Sorry about that. I'm having a little bit of a tickle in my throat. The Supreme Court actually, I'm sorry, in the bill, there's a pay-go measurement measure, where if there are new initiatives, even executive orders, they got to find out a way to pay for it inside of the bill. But I think they're mentioning there's a back door where you can get around that pay-go effort. So I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen. I don't think it looks positive, though. I do not think it looks positive for the forgiveness of the student loans. Let's see what you got here, Doug. There was a time before Obama that increased the debt ceiling wasn't a political issue. You're right about that. You're right about that. You're absolutely right. It has become more and more partisan over the time. Even with Trump, when Trump raises the debt limit 3 times on 3 separate occasions, the Democrats at the time, Nancy Pelosi, gave him a clean debt ceiling. It was nothing like this waiting until the last minute or trying to get concessions. Now, to be fair, we was in the middle of a pandemic. We needed money for the stimulus packages and that type of thing. So, to be fair, it was a little bit of a different time. Yeah, it just happened without a lot of conditions. You're absolutely right. Nancy Pelosi didn't drag him through it. And women own 70% of the student loan debt. 121,000 more single women own homes than single men. That's going to change now that women are going to have to start paying their loans now. Okay. So I didn't pull up the facts on who owns what, Doug. I'm going to take it. You are a great stat man. In fact, I want you guys to go to Doug's channel, look him up, Doug MPA. Great guy. Seriously on the stats. I'm going to put this back up because I didn't pull it out. That women were single women was owning so much more in loans and how that relate to their housing. But yeah, if they haven't been paying their student loans, then you are going to have a situation where they're going to have to start, and that's going to encroach upon their budget, their household budget. One thing that it could do, Doug, is if they were to, well, I was going to say they could refinance. If they was going to refinance their home, but now the interest rates are so high, it's going to eat into their equity. Now, the student loan debt is the interest rate to pay back the student loan debt is a lot higher than even a refinanced home. So if you have a lot of equity in your home, maybe you can refinance that. Maybe you could pull out some of the equity in your home and actually consolidate all of your bills. If you have credit card debt 18 to 24%, let's say, you have a student loan debt in a 18% range, 12 to 18% range, or whatever the going rate was at the time of your signing. Maybe you have some other debt out there, and then you're sitting in a home that you bought 10 years ago, where you have 100,000, 200,000 in equity. Maybe you should talk to your financial advisor and say, hey, listen, what would happen? What would happen if I do a HELOC, home equity line of credit, and I use that money, the home equity line of credit, to pay off all these other bills, to pay off my student loans, to pay off my credit cards, high interest credit cards. Maybe there's some medical issues out there that you want to pay off. If I use that equity in there to pay those off, how would my overall portfolio look? Would I look better on paper? Will it look worse? If you have a lot of equity in your home, maybe that's time to do that. Even though the rates are kind of high, I can guarantee you the rates are going to be less than the rate that you're paying on credit card debt, as well as most likely your student loan. So maybe you can put that house to use. I live in the DC area, and I know too many women that just bought so they just bought properties knowing that they were barely able to afford it and are going to just figure it out. Well, yeah. Typically, real estate is typically overall a good bet. However, there are some situations where it's not. In real estate, you get the tax benefits, you get tax breaks, you get the ability that you're establishing equity. You're owning a piece of the American pie, so there's the peace of mind benefit. Your financial situation may increase. Let's say you you fall in love and get married. Now there's two people that are paying, potentially two people that will be paying for the home. So there are a lot of benefits to home ownership. Worst come to worst, if you get it, you live in it for a few years, you sell it at slight profit or even, you go back to renting and maybe you made a few bucks. So it's hard to say for the average person that home ownership is not a good idea. Now I know that there's some school of thought that you and shout out to Grant Cardone. Grant Cardone is a proponent of this, is that you rent what you own and you live where you rent. So he's saying that you do buy a home, you do own home, you do own property, but the property that you own, you're renting it out. And then where you live, you rent. So if I own a property in DC, actually I know some people in DC, Doug, and the rents are very strong in DC. $4, $5, $6, $7, $8,000 a month, depending on what area you're in. And let's say your mortgage is $4,000 a month. That's $500,000 home, depending on the interest rate, how much you put down, all those things. So I own a home, $4,000. That's my mortgage, and I'm able to rent it for $7,000. Let's say you're near a school, Pentagon, some area where they pay well. Well, you're making $2,000-$3,000 a month. So you have that tenant paying your mortgage. Your mortgage is going down. The equity that you're building in your home is going up. And then you have that surplus per month. Let's see what you got here. Yeah, the housing market is strong here. Right. So like in Florida, the housing market is pretty strong in Florida also, as far as rental market. We have a management company, property management company, and it's homes don't sit on the market that long. And so if it's a fair price, you're going to be able to rent it. The question is that if you rent it for, let's say, same scenario, your mortgage is $4,000 a month, you're able to rent it for $7,000. That's $3,000 that you're pocketing. You still got to find a place to live. So can you find a place that's under that, or will you find a place that will subsidize what you're making? The idea is that you have multiple rental properties. And that's where Grant Cardone really, that's the unspoken truth to what Grant Cardone is saying, is that if you have multiple doors, let's say you have $100,000, and I'm just making up these numbers, guys, and so don't hold me to it. But let's say you had $100,000 that you saved up that could buy one home. Okay. And you're able to take that $100,000 and able to buy 3 doors or 4 doors. Then the income from each one of those doors will not only offset what you are paying to rent, but then also you're making a little profit. So there is his rule of thumb. Well, it is a possibility that some people can benefit from it, but I don't think that the average, that mom with a kid, young woman with a kid scenario that you mentioned, where she bought a home, I'm not sure if that is that particular situation will work for her. I don't know. But in general, I think that real estate ownership, especially if you're a buy and hold person, in general, that's a good idea. And the more doors you own, the better. Randy, hey everyone, and Mr. Carmena, how you doing, Randy? Randy K in the house. Randy, we just covered the president address. Basically, we averted the default scenario where we didn't raise the debt ceiling. We ran out of money. I mean, Yellen came out and said that the date on Monday, we're going to run out of funds. We're going to risk possible default. And so by the president signing the bill tomorrow, that's going to avert that. So mission accomplished. Salute. Mission accomplished. All parties, because we got to give the Republicans, yes, they fought, they pushed back, they got some wins. They did. They got some wins. The president, the Democrats, they got some wins, and they were able to generate a bill that will, according to them, curve the spending and avert the debt. I mean, the default. So great work. Now we're talking about the jobs market and how strong the job market came in, but how that job market will affect the Fed, how the end of the Fed is going to do one of their three things that they can do. Again, they could increase, they could pause, or they can cut rates. And we talk about possible scenarios of that. Randy K, thanks for being here to support this channel. Thank you. Thank you, guys. So, as I mentioned, I am a little bit under the weather. I am going to answer. If you guys have any questions, I want to answer those. But I do think that today was a good day. Today was a good day. We was able to avert a lot of things, and I think that today, I'm more optimistic. I'm more optimistic actually after this. I'm more optimistic that this divided government during the lame duck session will work or could work. When we have the presidential election, and it looks like it's going to be Trump against Biden. It's going to be a rematch. I don't know though. I don't know. Maybe somebody else pop up. Maybe ex-President Trump will invalidate himself somehow. Either way, there's a possibility that we're going to have divided government after the next presidential election. I don't see where one party, while there's a chance that one party is going to have going to rule, I do not see where the one party is going to it's going to be. I think that it's going to have divided government. So everybody's going to have to start working together. Everybody's going to have to work together. Loretta says, feel better, David. Thank you, Loretta. I appreciate it. I am a little bit under the weather. I've had a little tickle in my throat last couple of days, but I'm feeling better. And thank you. Doug, thank you, brother, coming in with the $5. Doug says, supporting the channel, my brother. Thanks for breaking all of this down. As a political person myself, I can say you are doing a great job. Keep grinding. Thank you. I am. I love this political stuff. You're right, Doug. Thank you. I like to try to break it down and bring it home. We averted the debt ceiling increase. We did, but if we would have had it, I mean, interest rates would have went out the roof. We would have had, a lot of people think that and Doug, I want you to, you're a political guy and a finance guy. A lot of people think that a lot of these savings programs that everyone tells you to buy into is safe. 401ks, that's safe. IRAs and all, that's safe. What they don't know, I may not know, is that the 401k is tied to stocks. stock market crash, you lost your 401k. You mentioned, Doug, you mentioned about these ladies buying a home and savings and being frugal, buying that home, and I'm going to keep it for 40 years. I'm going to retire in this home. I'm going to, put all my money, the maximum amount I can in 401ks. And when I get, 40 years from now, my 50s and 60s and later, there's going to be more money for me to live off of. So they've saved all that money, 20 plus years of saving money, and all of a sudden we default, stock market crash, and they've lost everything. They've lost everything. And they have to start all over again. A lot of the things that we think these programs that we think are safe us with several key assumptions. We don't have a world war. We don't have an insurrection. We don't have a catastrophe that will cause all of our markets to crash. If we have any one of those things, all bets are off. All bets are off. So I appreciate you, Doug. I appreciate you. Everybody in the chat, go to Doug MPA, go to his channel. Check out his content, excellent content creator. Support the brother. Doug says it's going to be crazy working with the watching DeSantis and Trump go at each other. It's going to be a clown show on the GOP side. I'm sorry, these lights, if I turn it up too bright, it shows great. I see a lot of, but then it washes out anything I'm trying to read. So it's already have started, Doug. It already has. The President Trump is going after DeSantis. I'm in Florida. So we get all the heat. We get all the smoke here. Ronald Reagan said that Republicans do no evil to other Republicans. Republicans should not go after this. It shouldn't make it personal. Republicans, you should talk about policies. You should talk about that, and you shouldn't go after another Republican personally. Well, you forget that. Forget that. Not with Trump. Trump will go all the way there. So, yeah, it's going to be a clown show, like you said. Those are not safe at all. You're talking about the, a lot of the, what people would think is safe, the 401ks and those types are not safe. I think that the safest route is to have, I really do. I really feel that having multiple sources of income with a strong real estate component is how you buffer yourself against all of these fluctuations that can happen. Someone is always going to need a place to sleep. They're going to need a roof over their head. They're going to need food. I mean, there's certain basic needs that everyone's going to have, no matter if the economy, you have a strong economy or a weak economy. So if you can buy something and position that property or position that product to where it's always needed in good times and bad times, that's the route to go. For me, I think that real estate is probably that way to go. Doug says, what's your take on the Disney? Oh man, Disney DeSantis. Would you be interested in to hear your yeah, let's talk about that. Disney and DeSantis. Being in Florida, we are a tourist state. A lot of our income comes from tourism. A lot of people come from all over the world, comes and says, well, I'm saving 3 months, 4 months. Excuse me, hold on, Doug. Sorry, guys. I'm saving 3 months, 4 months. I'm saving thousands of dollars to have that aspirational trip to go to Disneyland. Now, being in Florida, so I'm from Louisiana. So in Louisiana, when they had the Mardi Gras, and I remember, people say, well, I want to go and I'm going to go to the Essence fashion shows, and I'm going to go. I mean, like, I'm from Louisiana. It's right down the street. It's not that big of a deal. Going to Disney is not that big of a deal for me. For us, I have friends that live in Orlando. It's literally 20 minutes down the road for them. So going to Disney is not that big of a deal, but all over the world, that is a one-time thing. In 2019, Doug, I had the opportunity to have a transatlantic cruise. And the end of the cruise, I wound up in Singapore. And I'm telling you, Singapore was, to me, it was like, wow, look at all of this. Look at this, you see on TVs, the light forest, and you see all of these things happening. Another thing it just blew my mind, Doug, was most of Singapore, a lot of Singapore, especially downtown, is underground. You have underground complexes that ran miles and miles. Eateries. The best food. Some of the best food was street food. It was an aspirational trip for me. It was something that I spent thousands and thousands of dollars to get on this cruise, this transatlantic cruise. Yes, we stopped at different places, but my main goal was to get to Singapore. Now, the people who live in Singapore, it was just another Tuesday for them. It was just another Tuesday. It was just another Tuesday. So when DeSantis attacks Disney and trying to make it hard for him, he's not only attacking that institution, but he's attacking tourism. Tourism. What is Florida known for? Beaches, babes, sunshine, Disney. That's what we're known for. We're not known to be the financial capital of the world. Maybe you can throw some football teams in there. I mean, the Bucks won many times with Tom Brady. Shout out to Tom Brady. Salute you, brother. We have the Miami Heat. Miami Heat is in the finals. They have a good chance of winning. I think I'm not sure where we are. As I think it may be 1-1. I'm not sure though. We have a good baseball field. We have the Lightning, multiple world champs, but it's Disney. No one's coming from Japan to see the Lightning. No one's going to spend, say, 3 months of your disposable income, 4 months of your half a year of your disposable income to see the Heat. They're coming to Disney. So when someone attacks their bread and butter for the state for what seems to be political gain, I don't know. I don't know about that, Doug. I don't know. So it's going to play out. I think that Disney did an in around. DeSantis is firing back. I've heard, I'm not sure if it's in the paper in DC, but there's certain things he's planning to do to kill the tourism, which is maybe I've heard someone, this was reported that just outside of Disney. By the way, Disney's not in Orlando. They're just outside of Orlando, and they own a lot of property just outside of Orlando. But outside of the property that they own, DeSantis said that he may build a prison there or something like that, something that would cause people to not go to Disney. He said that they was going to remove the special tax exemption, which would basically cause more taxes to be burdened by other residents of the state. So if they do something with the taxation of how they tax Disney or removes whatever special exemption that they have, there's a strong chance and in likelihood that it's been reported that our taxes is going to go up. And that's not a good thing. So I don't really know, Doug, outside of what seems to be an obvious political angle to this, why he wants to go after Disney. Now, I know that Disney lately has been airing a lot on the alphabet side. You know, they've been kind of this woke consciousness is what he's saying is maybe a reason why they're going, he's attacking Disney. I don't know that to be the case, but I do know that Disney generates a ton of income for the state of Florida, and you may be going after a company that you may not win. You might not. It may backfire. It may backfire, Doug. I don't like this. I don't like it. Now, Doug, are you a Disney person? Let me know if you're a Disney person. But I don't like the Disney. DeSantis said, let's see what you got here. DeSantis got rid of the yeah, he did after 56 years. You're right. You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. By implant, they said that he kind of stopped. He kind of how can I say this without he put on the board, let's say it this way. He put on the board people that were sensitive to his position. And the board then voted against the special exemptions for Disney. So it's just not, it don't make sense. It does not make sense. So I do think that if they were going to, if he needs something to bring him on the map, so that he, and that's what he's looking, let's face it, guys. Let's call a spade, guys. He's looking for some type of position that will differentiate him from other candidates in the field, my opinion. And he thinks that this attacking Disney, attacking woke, he's been really on the talking about what could be the curriculum in schools. Something that's not as reported was the how he went after New College in Florida, where I might do a full show on this because I don't want to minimize it, but basically a lot of the professors were fired. New College is kind of this new age type of college, non-traditional, liberal college, and what they were doing is that they were going after faculty members, not giving them tenure, flat out firing them, changing the curriculum of New College. So it's the liberal platform. He's going after a liberal platform. He's going after woke culture, whatever that is. He's going after the alphabet community. He's trying to differentiate himself. And I think that that's probably maybe something that is good for his base, the Republican base. I'm not sure how that would serve him in the general election. I'm not sure how that would serve him in the general election, but I do know that in the you got to get to the general, you got to get past your primaries. To get to the general election, you got to be selected as the representative, Republican rep. So maybe he figured that he'll throw this red meat out, right? And then once he is selected as the Republican candidate for president, then he'll pivot and move toward the center to try to get these independent votes. That's the only thing I can guess. Loretta gave me the 10.99 super sticker. Thank you, Loretta. Thank you. Loretta is a longtime channel supporter and supporter of many things that we do here. And sometimes we have differences, but always support, and I appreciate you. I do appreciate you. So thank you for the $9.99, and shout out to the lead. No question, no comment, just showing love for the brother. Just showing some love for the brother. Thank you, Loretta, for coming by the show. Thank you for your comments over time. I appreciate you. We have Miss Daniels and says, Disney is not kid friendly anymore. They're going after our kids in a bad way. You know, Disney, you have a point. Look, you have a point. You have a point. Disney has over time. I remember when I was way back in the Stone Age, when I was young, you know, you can go to Disney. It was a family affair. It was not astronomical pricing. You can go there, spend the whole day, nothing but wholesome, good fun. You wouldn't have to worry about a lot of the things that's happening now in Disney. So when DeSantis is if he's trying to roll that back to where it is more of a family affair, it is more family kid friendly, that's one thing. But Republicans are big on saying, well, the market will regulate itself. We don't need to regulate the market. The market is going to regulate itself. Let the market regulate it. So if Disney is using that same thought, theory, process, if the market is going to regulate itself, wouldn't people, if they don't want to consume that content, Disney's content, wouldn't they just stop going? Wouldn't they just stop going? Don't spend them thousands of dollars to go to Disney, and then sooner or later Disney would say, wow, I remember when we had this whole family friendly content, we were making a lot more money. The market is telling us that they're not willing to buy what we are selling. They're not willing to buy what we are selling. So maybe we should find something different to sell to them. So if the market, if the Republicans are saying let the market regulate itself and stay out of business, they're saying that on one hand, then DeSantis is doing all these things because they don't like Disney's content. I don't know. What do you think? He says DeSantis is a mini Trump. Excuse me, you got to hold, you can take it easy on the brother. I'm not 100% here. Just verbally controlled. That's just my opinion. DeSantis, okay, so DeSantis have to differentiate himself. He can't be a mini Trump. And so I think that that is his fear, is that how being a Republican, how can I differentiate my position from other Republicans, including Trump? Now, when you look at the poll, when you look at the polls, you see that Trump is, let me pull up real clear politics. And I'm going to show you guys the latest polls. Let's do this. Let me add this. Real clear politics is a great website where you can see they have their polls covers everything. So let me add this to the stream. I'm not sure if you guys can see this. Let me see if I'm gonna try to increase it. If not, what I'll do is I will okay, I'm hoping that you can see this. If not, I'm going to let me remove myself here. All right, so this is real clear politics, and in here you see all of the races. They cover everything, and you can see where this is all of the polls, guys. So this is all of the polls. Some of these pollsters are A, some are B, some are C. So you got to take some of this information from junior pollsters with a grain of salt. You cannot, take this on face value, but you can take enough of these polls. If you put enough of them together, they're going to give you an idea of what the race looks like. Okay. So if you look at this, if you're looking at Republican candidate for the presidency, you look at in Nevada Republican president caucus, Trump is ahead 32 points. DeSantis is behind, but in second place. Trump is 53. Anything over that 50-point margin means a lot. And DeSantis, as of right now, is 21. But in second place, if you look at the Trump and Biden, let's get past that for now, even though Biden is showing stronger. I want to talk about on the Republican side. Tuesday, the 30th, Trump is up by 45 points. This is the 2024 West Virginia Republican presidency primary. You got Trump at 54%, DeSantis at 9%. Trump is strong in West Virginia. You have the LA Times report where California, you have Trump up again. Trump 44, DeSantis 26%. Trump up by 18. Trump up by 24. Trump up by 40. Trump is up across the board. Trump up by 42 in Iowa. The 2024 Iowa Republican presidential caucus, Trump is up by 42 points. 42 points. So when you are up by 42 points, when you are a candidate in some races, you are by 42 points. The other candidates have got to figure out a way to do something to differentiate themselves. They just cannot make up the gap by just being a mini version of the lead candidate. So DeSantis is fighting for his life, and he's trying to figure out something. He's throwing a lot of things against the wall and hoping that something sticks with his base so that he can compete. He's just trying to compete. If he can pull within 10 points, let's say, he has a fighting chance. Some of those other candidates are probably going to not have enough money. They're probably going to fall out. Now, the Republican caucus is a winner take all. So if you have Trump winning and the Republican caucus is DeSantis is a strong second place, let's say. Let's say DeSantis is a strong second place. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Winner take all. Winner takes all. None of this, we're gonna split the vote. You get some delegates, and we get no. Winner takes all. That's why it's important to figure out a way to differentiate yourself, and you got to start off strong in those early primaries. Now, on the Democrat side, Biden is up by 60. I've seen some across the board. I've seen some reports where polls where he's anywhere from the low mid 40s to almost 70% up. So he's going to be the Democratic candidate for presidency. The only question is, will it be Trump, DeSantis, or maybe somebody else pops up out of the field? Now, to be fair, Trump is fighting a battle across many fronts, multiple fronts. Multiple. So I don't know if one of those fronts that he's fighting is gonna trip him up. We have a lot of time between now and next year. Well, I guess we don't really, if you think about it, guys. You know, people are already in campaign mode. People are already in campaign mode, and let's circle back around to the default. Remember, now we said on this show that one of the options that they had with this debt ceiling and possible default was to just kick the can 1 year to 2024 and not 2025. If they kick the can down 1 year to 2024, guess what? It would have been part of the political campaign, and then now this whole debt ceiling, reducing government would have been on everybody's radar. But because they decided to suspend the debt until 2025, it's not going to be a central part of the campaign, and therefore, it's not going to be, the American public will not have to vote on their pocketbooks. Then they will not have to vote on, should we rein in government now in 2024? And is the candidate that we're picking to be our president, can we hold them accountable to do this? If they would have raised the debt, let's say they suspended the debt ceiling for 1 year, suspended it for 1 year, raised it, said that we're going to cap spending for at 1% increase like they did. We're going to cap that for 1 year. We're going to give everything that we've given on this bill, but we're just going to do it to 2024, not 2025. I want you guys in the chat to tell me, was that a better solution? Because it would have finally forced us to face what we're doing in the government. Guess what? They would have to been on record saying that how I'm going to balance budget. If you vote for me, I'm going to do X, Y, Z to curb our spending and to balance our budget in 4 years. It would have forced them to do that. Both sides would have had to put on the table what they were willing to do to bring this budget, to rein in the spending in this budget and to become balanced. They would have been forced to say that on record. A lot of times they come up there, both parties, the Democrats and the Republicans say, hey, listen, this is our goal. We're going to rein this in, but they're not willing to say what they look. To rein in spending, you have to do two things. You got to generate more revenue, and you got to cut what you're spending. You got to bring more in the front door. That means taxes, guys. But then also you got to be spending less. So you got to bring more in the front door while you're spending less. Boom, you get it. You got a balanced budget. But in the spending less, you got to cut some things. What are we willing to cut? They would have had to say it on record. But no, they decided to push it to 20. And they couldn't have been reckless with it, I don't think, because we had a very real chance that in 2024, what they may have done is they may have they may have not increased the budget, the deficit, and we go into default. So it wouldn't have been one of those situations where you talk, and there's nothing come of it, or you can kick the can. So it possibly, if we would have raised the debt ceiling for 1 year versus 2, suspended the debt. That's what they did. They suspended the debt ceiling for 1 year versus 2. We probably could have made a major push, a major effort on record on truly becoming a balanced budget economy, truly spending within our means. And we would have had to cut some of these things. Probably across the board. The sacred cows, the military. We probably would have had to cut that. Unfortunately, we probably had to cut Social Security, Medicaid and Medicare. I don't know. Maybe. I hope they would have found some way to figure out how to not cut those. We would probably have to come up with a balance of how much we need to protect ourselves and what is a healthy safety net that we will not fall below. American citizens will not fall below. Yes, we would have to take care of our veterans. Yes, we would have to take care of our elderly. So, but that didn't happen. But to my number one guy, my number one man, salute to Christopher Williams, my number one supporter. Thank you for coming in, brother. I appreciate you. Thank you for the $10 super chat. And again, shout out to the lead. No question, no comment, just showing love to the brother. Thank you, Christopher. All right, so let's wrap up, guys. As I mentioned, I'm a little under, so I'm gonna cut it short a little bit here tonight. Christopher, salute, brother. I appreciate you. I really do. I really appreciate you. All you guys that came in, I appreciate you. Doug says, at Christopher, thanks for being here. Yes, thank you. Thank you for all the supporters to today's stream. I want to thank you, Doug, for your super chat. Loretta, thank you for dropping by with the strong $9.99. I appreciate you. Christopher Williams, thank you for your $9.99. I appreciate you guys. As always, I want you guys to consider ways to where you can generate these multiple streams of income. I want you to consider how policy, especially policy like this, affects that directly. If you like the content of this channel, please like and subscribe. And as always, guys, salute and stay grinding. I'll see you guys on next week on Monday. Stay grinding. Have a great weekend.